and welcome to season 2. I hope you have your cup of Joe ready. I got mine right here. And this season, get ready for bubbly conversations regarding all things education and design. We're going to be dropping pre recorded 10 to 15-minute episodes every few weeks. You do not want to miss out. And if you're interested in being a part of Coffee Talks, send us a message. We would love to have you. As a reminder, I am your host, Hannah Tejeda. I am the Director of Education for UFG Manufacturing. My background is in education as a dual certified teacher with students with special needs. Every Coffee Talks episode is broken down into coffee-like segments. We have our espresso shot, our stir and sip, some pour over moments, and some cold brew application. Let's hop on into that espresso shot. So today's conversation is brought to you by 3 different texts. They have inspired today's conversation. We highly recommend that you pick them up, download them on an audiobook version. We have When Things Are Alive, They Hum, Reimagining the Classroom, and HBR's 10 must-reads on mental toughness. Guys, today's episode is all about EdSpaces and getting into some design applications. So we were at EdSpaces, an education, facilities, and design conference hosted by EdMarket. This year, it was in Columbus, Ohio. Wow, y'all, we had some fun. The conference ranges anywhere from 100 to 500 exhibitors, and with attendees consisting of architects, designers, facilities, department heads, specialists, and manufacturers. So we all gather over a 2 to 3 day period. We exhibit, we celebrate educational leadership and innovation, all to better the world of education. In considering innovation, the conference consists of different innovative pockets, such as the Innovation Awards, leadership gatherings, programmings and research, and really cool field visits where we actually go as groups to neighboring districts in the area and we talk about design, we talk about implementation, and we talk about overall achievement and outcome based on those designs. Well, this year we were fortunate to exhibit in 2 spaces, one personal booth for UFG Manufacturing, companies Norva Nival and Pedagogy Furniture, and also a second collaborative space sponsored by AIA and designed by 4 incredible designers. So the idea of this space was to create a seamless flow between manufacturers, highlighting how needs-based design can be successfully implemented when we all come together. This space was used in smaller breakout sessions for collaborative think tanks, as well as basically a touchdown space to utilize in the exhibit hall. Our personal booth was divided into 3 distinct sections. One section was based on intervention, special populations. There was greater flexibility, more movement, different specialized types of movements. Another section was to showcase elevated finishes and in more collaborative spaces like media centers, commons for administration. We also incorporated in the middle of the booth a design center, and it focused on showcasing elements like live design and hosting mini in-booth sessions on trauma-informed design, study outcomes, our R&D process, and so on. We also incorporated a prototype corner. Guys, I'm so excited that we did this. We engaged a lot of attendees in their first impressions and overall feedback for several pieces that are in the works. Hopefully, we will go through them at a later Coffee Talks date. Just to give a more specific walkthrough of elements that were in the booth, several pieces that were highlighted by many groups in a positive way was the EduFlex all the way on your left, the Floats Pod moving towards the right, the bio table, and a lot of our collaborative seating arrangements. So the goal for us this year in exhibiting was to promote needs-based design for all physical and cognitive populations. We also wanted to hone in on specific instructional supports for the adults and facilitators that are in the space. There were definitely some patterns that emerged during the show. So 2025 was the year of patterns and vinyl within educational design, specifically triangular symmetrical patterns. We know how beneficial symmetrical patterns are for the brain and the synapses processes. So we definitely saw those on the exhibit floor in a handful of different booths. Throughout the show floor, you also noticed a wide variety of curvature, specifically within case goods, work surfaces, and seating arrangements. So focusing more on a Harkness-based space, so a circular design, as opposed to harsh linear lines that are more commonly attached to authoritarian methods. There was also a lot of themed verbiage and buzzwords floating throughout the show floor within different breakout sessions, terms such as trauma-informed design, sensory, behavior supports, communication supports. So we're going to take all of those patterns and themes and hop into today's conversation topic, needs-based design. We read that and some people might go, well, what the heck even is that? That sounds like a lot. So needs-based design is design which promotes the process of understanding first, designing second, which equates to a lot of healing and positive outcomes, not just academically, but also socially, emotionally, physically, cognitively, a lot of different holistic perspectives when it comes to needs-based design. There's many different phrases floating around the educational design space, and often they overlap or they have the same umbrellaed overarching thought. So you might have also heard of universal design, trauma-informed design, behavioral design, and democratic design. All of these design models stem from your foundational needs-based design. So needs-based design, it's a user-centric approach, and it encompasses a lot of different support systems for individuals and communities alike. Some of those support systems, what are they and who are they for? Well, for facilitators, the design must support elements such as time. All of our coffee as educators is cold. Don't ask us if we're drinking hot coffee. And if it is hot coffee, we've definitely heated it up about 4 or 5 times throughout the day, and it's still our first cup. So we need the design to support time. We also need the design to support transition. I might be a specials educator, and I might be with varied age groups back to back to back. And I might only have 3 to 5 minutes to transition between each section, and we might be doing completely different activities. I also need support with my prep. As the adult in the space, I might be prepping a lot more different types of materials than what the learners are utilizing at one time. Needs-based design, we need to provide supports for our learners, for their communication, for life skills such as learned advocacy and problem solving. We're also designing for a lot of different needs in the space. Like we said, physical, academic, emotional, socio-emotional. And we also need to incorporate supports for trauma-based learning, such as hunger. After teaching kindergarten for a very long time, and then moving to 7th grade for a very long time, and any teacher that you talk to, we will tell you, if a kid or adult is hungry in the space, there ain't much going on. We need to solve the problem of the hunger first before getting into any content-related material. We also can provide design supports for distancing. Am I distancing myself from the group? Am I distancing myself from what's going on? Am I dissociating from what's happening in the day? So each of these needs can be supported through learning space design by utilizing a concept as safety, trustworthiness, designing for dignity and mutuality. And the impact of this can be phenomenally positive. We can fight against being stuck in fight or flight. We can create a greater connection to self and others. We can assist with the self-actualization process within the space We can help with communication, which essentially is behavior. All behavior is communication, and behavior is communication, and communication is behavior. But how do we go about starting a design that includes all of these needs supports? What can we do? Well, first, we can consider several questions. We can ask, how can I reduce or remove adverse stimuli or stresses in the space? Basically, what's not necessary? Is it necessary for me to have 50 posters on a wall? Is it necessary for all of my kids to have one type of seat? Is it necessary for every single wall in the space to be a whiteboard or to have a screen? We can ask ourselves these questions. We can also ask ourselves, can I promote a sense of personal identity in the space? Moving through priorities such as safety, trustworthiness, dignity, that gives every individual a sense of personal identity in the space that they're in. So heading into a little pour over moment, we would love for you to continue to pour over this question throughout the rest of your day, your week, while you're designing. What elements are considered in needs-based design? Is it mutuality, color processing, equitable use, tolerance for error, flexibility? Which one is it? Or is it all of the above? It can seem overwhelming to consider so many facets when designing a whole learning community, but when you think about it, the average learner, at least in the US, spends 30 to 45 hours a week in school. So understanding all of these needs means offering greater access in the learning space. And greater access often leads to a better understanding and growth for the learning community as a whole. So let's get into a cold brew moment. It's time for the application. How do we actualize this in our designs? Well, first, we need to know where design and educational space design is going. So in the 22nd learning environment, we're understanding the need to move through instructional practices, and that includes pedagogy, andragogy, and hudagogy. What the heck does that mean? Well, pedagogy, it's educator-centered for learners only. You see a lot of pedagogy in elementary, sometimes middle school, definitely early education. Then we have andragogy, which is learner-centered for adults. So these are practices where we've created and honed in on curriculum and spatial design for adult learners that have a greater synapse process. Their praxis is honed down. They know how to intake information and problem solve accordingly for an abstract outcome. But then, kind of the diamond in the rough practical approach is hudagogy. And that's for self-determined learning for individuals. Now, there's a beautiful way we can meld pedagogy and hudagogy in a learning space as benefit for the learning community as a whole and individuals. And depending on where you serve, there should be spatial supports created for each instructional practice and its transition. What does that look like in a design? Well, considering what we know about needs-based design and how the 22nd century learning spaces are transitioning, where do we start? So the following are several K-12 envisioned environments, highlighting implementation supports for safety, mutuality, trustworthiness, risky learning, and so on. Notice in this design the differentiated sections for various learning modes. There's varied heights throughout the space, allowing for acoustic dimension. There are varied seating styles and heights supporting different body types and niche needs for movements. There are compartments containing nooks and crannies for more sensory deprivating experiences, and all are fluidly within one space. Now, how does this equate to safety, trustworthiness, mutuality? Well, when we walk into a space that has a significant compartment for adults and children, or facilitators and learners, sometimes it can communicate a sense of distrust or a sense of I am not good as, or I do not belong here. This is not for me. And moving into a 22nd century learning environment and combining the modes of pedagogy and hudagogy, we want there to be a seamless and fluid motion of trustworthiness, mutuality, and a sense of belonging throughout one space. Here, we've highlighted these compartments that can be recreated throughout the entire space. The environment as a whole can provide these supports to either one learner or the group at large. Needs-based design is truly whole space design. It's whole space design for the whole person. Perimeter-focused and compartmentalized spaces a lot of times place emphasis on instructional components and intervention, rather than seeing the whole space as a support system. So a resource like a calming corner or a Zen den can provide support for a community, but it can also quickly turn into punishment reward or an instructional hiccup because no more than several learners can be in that space at a time. So truly utilizing and actualizing needs-based design means taking those corner elements and providing them throughout the space, fully accessible for all users. If you're interested in receiving additional resources regarding needs-based design and how you can begin rethinking spaces in this way, send us a message. We'll follow up with a very helpful trauma-informed one-pager showcasing aspects of design management and actualization as shown here. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you for Coffee Talk Season 2, Episode 2 in just a few weeks. Get ready for a handful of some comical character special guests. Cheers.